Hello, my name is Ann Williams, and I am the Director of Health Services at the Masters Academy. The purpose of this presentation is to review prevention of sexual harassment and the employee policy on this matter at the Masters Academy. Each employee of the Masters Academy is respected as a professional. Therefore, each employee is expected to behave in such a way that would not bring disrespect to their testimony as a Christian or their reputation as an employee of the Masters Academy. Thus, the policy of the Masters Academy is to provide an environment free from harassment, whether based on gender, race, color, nationality, or ethnic origin, age, or disability. The objectives of this presentation include to define sexual harassment and review reporting and investigation policies. As an employee of the Masters Academy, you are expected to review our school's harassment policy annually, which is located in the personnel manual that is always available on your Paylocity app. Sexual harassment is a form of sex discrimination that violates Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. This act was amended in 1980 and again in 1991. This federal law prohibits employers from discriminating against employees on the basis of sex, race, color, nationality, and religion. In 1980, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, EEOC, issued regulations defining sexual harassment and stating it is a form of sex discrimination prohibited by the Civil Rights Act of 1964. The Supreme Court defined sexual harassment as a violation of Title VII, established the standards for analyzing whether the conduct was welcome, the level of employer liability, and that speech or conduct in itself can create a hostile work environment. In 1991, the Civil Rights Act strengthened protections under Title VII by allowing victims of discrimination, including sexual harassment, to seek compensatory and punitive damages, making it more impactful for victims to pursue legal action. Sexual harassment includes unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, or verbal or physical conduct of a sexual nature. It includes bullying or coercion of a sexual nature and the unwelcome or inappropriate promise of rewards in exchange for sexual favors. Sexual harassment includes a range of actions from mild transgressions to sexual abuse and assault. The harasser can be the victim's supervisor, a supervisor in another area, a coworker, or in the school setting, a student or parent. Harassers or victims can be of either gender. In the workplace, harassment is considered illegal when it is frequent or so severe that it creates a hostile or offensive work environment, or when it results in an adverse employment decision, such as the victim's demotion, firing, or quitting. The results of workplace harassment are many. It destroys employee morale, it negatively affects the work environment, it can lead to litigation, and it negatively affects the Christian testimony of individuals or the school as a whole. The Masters Academy has a policy regarding this matter. The Masters Academy forbids discrimination against any employee, applicant for employment, or student on the basis of sex. The Masters Academy will not tolerate sexual harassment by any of its employees, nor does it tolerate reprisals against any employee who makes a harassment complaint. Such behavior will be cause for immediate disciplinary action or dismissal. This policy similarly applies to non-employee volunteers or any other persons who work subject to the control of school authorities. Types of sexual harassment. Sexual harassment can occur when submission to such conduct is made a term or condition of an individual's continued employment, promotion, or other condition of employment. This may occur by clearly stated acts or words or implied acts or words. Such conduct can interfere with or results in interference with an employee's work performance or creates an intimidating or hostile work environment. Under the law of sexual harassment, the fact that an employee does not openly object to others' actions or words does not prove it was unwelcome. Harassment may occur even if the individual originally remains silent or fails to show disapproval. Acts and statements that may offend some people may be highly offensive to others. Therefore, all employees should be sensitive to the feelings and beliefs of other employees. Examples of verbal sexual harassment include, but are not necessarily limited to, derogatory or vulgar comments regarding a person's gender, remarks about a person's physical anatomy or characteristics, inappropriate jokes, sexual innuendo, or display of written or graphic materials. Statements that demean individuals are also prohibited. Physical sexual harassment includes, but is not necessarily limited to, touching another person in a sexually suggestive way or touching another so as to invade their personal privacy. It can include intentional touching or movements made in order to observe another in a sexual manner. Other physical acts which are prohibited include hitting, pushing, and making physical gestures of a sexual nature. Sexual harassment may occur in a variety of circumstances. Often the perpetrator is in a position of power or authority over the victim. Forms of harassment relationships may include the victim and perpetrator being of the same gender or of the opposite sex. There may or may not be other witnesses of the offense. On occasion, there may be some misunderstandings as to what constitutes sexual harassment. The perpetrator may be unaware that his or her behavior is offensive or constitutes sexual harassment, such as teasing, telling jokes, flirting, or making comments about a person's appearance. The incident may be a one-time occurrence, but more often the incident is repeated. The adverse effects on the victim or the target commonly present in the forms of stress, social withdrawal, sleeping and eating difficulty, and overall health impairment. Since different people have different ideas as to what constitutes sexual harassment, we must all be sensitive to others' feelings on harassment. As a rule of thumb, here are some good questions to ask yourself. When is it crossing the line? Are you making your coworkers or students uncomfortable by something you are saying or by your behavior? Would you do it or say it in front of your spouse or significant other? If someone behaved this way toward your spouse, significant other, parent, or child, how would you feel? Would you be embarrassed to see your remarks or behavior reported publicly or described to your family? What more do you need to know about the consequences of sexual harassment? It can cost you your job. It can cost you your freedom. It can get you sued. And it is bad for your personal testimony and our school's Christian testimony. Administrators and supervisors have specific roles with regard to the matter of sexual harassment. The employer is obligated to keep the workplace free from sexual harassment. Your administrator will be held liable if he or she knew or should have known of inappropriate conduct and failed to take remedial action. We have reporting, investigation, and sanction procedures that are outlined in the Personnel Manual. The Masters Academy encourages employees who feel they have been subjected to conduct in violation of this policy to report such claims to their supervisor. Or, if their supervisor is the perpetrator, to go up the chain of command, going directly to our head of school, Mr. Darrell DeRuyter. Possible sanctions include, but are not limited to, warning letters placed in an employee's file, poor job performance evaluation, reduction in or suspension from work, or discharge from employment. For a comprehensive description of the procedure for reporting and appealing harassment charges, please refer to the employee harassment policy found in the Personnel Manual. The school recognizes that these sensitive matters demand a complete, unbiased investigation that protects the rights of the aggrieved employee and the alleged harasser. Moving on, let's talk about employee-student harassment or abuse. Students have a constitutional right to be free from sexual harassment and/or sexual abuse while attending school. Some signs of sexual harassment include the following examples: Teachers or coaches who engage in excessive communication with students outside of school or show favoritism or offer a better grade in exchange for sexual favors. That is a type of sexual harassment called quid pro quo harassment. In Latin, that means this for that. Unwanted touching, comments, or gestures because of a student's gender or appearance can often interfere with schoolwork, make the student feel uncomfortable or unsafe at school, or prevent the student from participating in or benefiting from a school program or activity. In addition, there are many forms of bullying or cyberbullying which are actually sex-based harassment and are prohibited under the law. For example, prohibited harassment may include behaviors such as using cell phones or social media to target students by posting pictures or calling them sexually explicit names. We see this more in student against student harassment situations. Finally, we exist in the midst of a rumor mill, so be very mindful of your behavior and how it may be perceived by your students and others. The law requires schools to provide an effective means to promptly and appropriately respond to sexual harassment complaints. This means that once a school has received notice of possible sexual harassment of any of its students or employees, the school must promptly investigate to determine what occurred and then take immediate and appropriate steps to stop the harassment and prevent it from happening again. Here are some things that you may want to consider to protect yourself from false claims of harassment. Limit one-on-one student contact in a private setting. Keep window visibility into your classroom unblocked. Try to have a third party present when interacting with a student. Maintain a professional student-teacher relationship at all times. Avoid flirting, teasing, or making jokes of a sexual nature with students. Avoid socializing with students outside of the school setting. Remember, you are not your student's friend. Do not let a student be in your car alone with you. Avoid texting and having social media contact with your students. Teachers should keep detailed notes of interactions with students, including date, time, and nature of the interaction. They should also report any concerning incidents to their supervisor. Your responsibilities as an employee of the Masters Academy include becoming fully aware of the sexual harassment policy, which is located in the personnel manual. You need to treat your coworkers and students professionally and with respect and dignity. Change your behavior when you're given indications that your behavior is offensive or harassing, and report any misconduct. The responsibilities of your supervisors include training of our employees, maintaining a high standard of personal conduct when dealing with all students, employees, and others. Ensure that all students and employees are advised of their rights and responsibilities under harassment policies, and immediately deal with any allegations of harassment. In closing, because we are a Christian school and serve as a light on campus and in our community, I would just like to close by encouraging you to remember that we are called by God. Philippians 2:15 says, "Prove yourselves to be blameless and innocent, children of God, above reproach in the midst of a crooked and perverse generation, among whom you appear as lights in the world." Thank you for your time and for your attention.